Good morning. Jesus, unlike many religious figures or even saints throughout history of the church, or great men and women who have shaped the history of humankind, Jesus never wrote any books. He left no buildings, no statues, no monuments. Yet what he did leave, though maybe it was not as spectacular as the Caesar's palace or the Jewish temple in Jerusalem, what he did leave was far more important. Jesus built and left a community. And it was the community that wrote the Gospels, erected buildings, and monuments. And the first Christian community was unique and fascinating. The Acts of the Apostles in today's first reading describe it in this way. The church throughout all Judea, Galilee, Samaria was at peace. It was being built up and walked in the fear of the Lord. And with the consolation of the Holy Spirit, it grew in numbers. Now you see, Jesus knew human nature probably better than any of us. And our human nature is to belong to a loving community. Be it a family, a town community, a church, or a community of close friends. And we have all come to appreciate that desire to belong to a community with others, even more so during this pandemic, haven't we? Where suddenly we were physically separated from others. We were unable to maybe visit some of our family members, even friends in a neighborhood. We were not able to gather in churches. And suddenly we realized how much we desire to belong and be together in a loving community. Now, modern psychology as well speaks of a need to belong, a need to be part of something greater than just myself. But there is more. It is actually a God-given need. It is a legitimate need that all of us have, and we need to satisfy that need. And God has created us with the need to be part of a loving community. Again, whether it's your family, whether it's your close friends, whether it is your parish, whatever the community is. A loving community where we can give of each other, when we can share our talents, when we can open our hearts to other people, where we can be known for who we are. And as Chris mentioned last week, a community where I can experience love, but also express love. Now, today, Jesus uses a beautiful image or a metaphor to describe the community that he left behind. He says to his apostles, and he is at the Last Supper. We are in chapter 15 of the Gospel of John. And he says this, I am the vine, you are the branches. Now, of course, to the apostles, this image would be very familiar. If you've ever been to Israel, there are grapevines all over the place. So some of the apostles probably even grew the vines themselves. They collected the grapes. They would be familiar with what it means to tend to the vines. And we know that branches cannot survive without the vine, but also the vine will not produce any fruit without the branches. Therefore, this image, this metaphor, is a simple reminder of the interdependence, closeness, and intimacy that the community and Jesus are to share with one another. But the purpose of the Christian community is much greater than just satisfying my need to belong. After all, Christian community is not about me. And that in and of itself is a powerful reminder. So what is the purpose of the Christian community? Jesus continues in the Gospel of John today, and he says this, just as a branch cannot bear fruit on its own unless it remains on the vine, so neither can you unless you remain in me. I am the vine, you are the branches. Whoever remains in me and I in him will bear much fruit, because without me you can do nothing. So you see, the vine and the branches exist for a purpose. And the purpose is, of course, to bear fruit. But notice, not any fruit, a specific kind of fruit, grapes. And that fruit has specific taste, specific flavor, shape, and texture. The vine cannot produce apples. The vine cannot produce oranges. Only grapes. And that, again, is a simple message as we look at that metaphor. And the metaphors are wonderful because you can play with them. You can kind of dive into them. And this metaphor reminds us again that the community that Jesus left behind is meant to produce specific fruits. Not any fruits, but specific ones. And Jesus, throughout his ministry, as he was walking through Galilee and preaching, reminds us constantly what those fruits are. Peace and kindness, justice and mercy and forgiveness. Notice how Luke described the church in the first reading today in the Acts of the Apostles. He says the church in Judea, Galilee, and Samaria, they live at peace. So one thing that Jesus left behind is people, disciples. a community. And what struck me about this is this, that Jesus did not just leave behind those apostles 2,000 years ago in Judea, Galilee, and Samaria. That Jesus left behind you and me. That Jesus left behind us. 2,000 years after his resurrection, he left you sitting here in the church, you watching online. Jesus left us behind to bear fruits. But there is more. The one word that appears in the gospel today 8 times is a Greek word. Of course, the gospel was written in Greek. The word is meno, which translates to remain, to stay with, to abide, to live in. Jesus says in today's gospel, again, and not just to the apostles in the upper room, but to us in this upper room, as we come to celebrate the Eucharist. Jesus says, remain in me. So as you go through this week, we invite you to take this word with you, to reflect upon it, to kind of walk with it. And ask yourself this question, no matter what's going to be coming at you this week. What does Jesus mean when he says to you and to me, remain with me, stay with me?
Thank you for being with us this morning, everyone. It's lovely to see all of your faces here. I see some people I haven't seen in a while, so it's nice to see you here. For those of you who joined our live stream, it was a blessing to worship with you this morning. Please join us again. I love this idea that Father talked about this continuity of, we are the branches connected to the same vine that the branches that the apostles were connected to. And over all this time that we're still generation after generation connected to the same vine. It doesn't mean that it's always easy. Sometimes there's difficult times. I had a week last week that I'm still, I don't know what the heck was going on. And, but just because it's cloudy doesn't mean that the branch falls off of the vine, The branch stays connected to the vine. It remains on the vine because it knows that the vine is its sustenance. The branch knows that through it, the vine will produce wonderful fruit and great things. So God bless you all. Be well, stay safe, and we'll see you next time.